everybody, Mike Iaconelli out in the shop with a brand new episode just for you today. And in today's shop video, we're going to continue our series on old school plastics. That's right, old school plastics. You know, a lot of these lures are forgotten about in favor of newer techniques. And in today's shop, we're going back to one of my classic baits that still catches big bass today. And today, we're talking about the good old ribbon tail worm, the ribbon tail worm. And this is still, all these years later, an amazing bait to catch big bass. Real quick, just a little history. I remember seeing my first ribbon tails in the mid 80s, the mid to early 1980s. Lures by companies called Man's Bay Company, Culprit, Gill Raker, and of course, the iconic Power Worm, all with these giant, long, curly ribbons that really allow this worm to have a lot of action. When I was young, this lure was always iconic with a bait that could catch a lot of fish, but really had a tendency to get big ones as well. So today's shop, we're going to be talking all about the ribbon tail. I really want to start by analyzing when we want a ribbon tail versus a straight tail worm, right? You know, when you think about worms, you've got straight tail worms, you know, worms that have just totally straight tails. You have worms that have little curls on the end, just a small hook. And then you've got the ribbon tail. And then you look at that tail. That's the juice, guys. That's the money. It has just a big sickle or hook style tail. And it really does put off a lot of water movement once you see it. When you see it in the water, you're like, whoa, puts off a lot of movement. So, you know, the first thing is, why do we want a ribbon tail versus a straight tail? You know, and the biggest determiners for me, from what I've seen in fishing, is we want that big ribbon tail, that big wide moving, hard, you know, a lot of action, big wag. We want that in two scenarios, okay? The first big one is water temperature. Water temperature. Remember, if you're a fan of this channel, you've heard me say it a million times. We want to match the activity level of the fish with the activity level of the bait, right? The action of the bait should mimic the activity level of the bass. So the first one is water temperature. Guys, when that water temperature is cold to moderate, okay? If that water temperature is wintertime temperatures, you're in the 30s or 40s, all the way up to, call it, that 60-degree mark, you know, when the fish start to bed. I prefer a straight tail. Has more neutral action, does have a little action, but it's more neutral, and it's perfect for the colder conditions. The fish are slower and more neutral. Your bait should be slower. But guys, when that water temperature starts getting warm, that's really when I want to switch to that ribbon tail. Once again, tons of movement in that big giant hook, that big sickle tail. So, you know, for me, the ribbon tails get really good, call it post-spawn, all the way through early to mid-fall. When that water temperature is high 60s, 68, 70 degrees or higher, guys, ribbon tail every time, okay? So the first big one, when a ribbon tail, is water temperature based and activity based. the activity level of the fish. All right. The second one, guys, this is another big one. And there's two things that I lump together here, and that is water clarity and light, or light penetration, okay? So, you know, we can really look at it sort of in two buckets. We've got clear water and we've got stained and muddy water. The light we can group the same way. We have bright light, very bright out, light, bright conditions that are really piercing through the water. And we have low light conditions, right? Which would be early in the morning, late in the evening, when a dark storm's rolling through. Or, last but not least, especially in the summertime, nighttime, right? The absence of light. So here's when I pick the ribbon tail. Start with that straight tail again. Guys, if that water is clear to clean, I really, a lot of times, prefer the straight tail worm. Again, think about the action of that. It's more subtle, it's more neutral, and fish can see it from a far ways off, right? A lot of times I'll go to a straight tail. But if that watercolor is dirty, if it's stained or muddy or chocolate milk or really brown or tannic colored, ribbon tail every time. I'm bringing it back. Ribbon tail every time. Because that big tail we keep talking about, look at that thing. This is, by the way, this is a 10-inch power worm. Look at that big tail snaking, creating vibration and movement and disturbance. That's the kind of tail you want in dirty water, okay? So clean water, I lean toward the straight tail worms. In stained and muddy and dirty water, especially when it's warm, I prefer the ribbon tail. And then light penetration, same thing, guys. If you're in clean water and it's a bright day, it's sunny, straight tail worm every time. Them fish are seeing it a long ways away. It's more neutral, it's more natural. If it's dark, if it's early in the morning, late at night, you know, it's getting dark. If there's a real big cloud cover in the area, if you're night fishing, I want that movement. I want that disturbance to help the fish find the worm. Okay? So there's my two big factors on when and where: temperature, activity level of the fish, water clarity, and light penetration, right? All right, let's get into the worms. You know, I think I pretty well explained the worms that I'm fishing, but I'll show you again. I'm a big believer in the Powerbait ribbon tails, and I utilize all the different sizes. So, guys, from the 6-inch, I love the 6-inch power worm ribbon tail, to the 8-inch, love the 8-inch. And guys, I'm even fishing with the big giant ones too. The 10-inch power worm and the old monster giant 12-inch power worm, okay? So I'm using all the sizes, 6, 8, 10, 12. Guys, the main determiner, excuse me, main determiner is forage. I'm always thinking about what those fish are eating in reference to the size of this worm. So I have a tendency to use the smaller 6 and 8-inch when the forage is smaller, right? If the forage is smaller, I want a smaller ribbon tail. Examples of smaller forage that a ribbon tail imitates: a worm, a real worm, an eel, A lot of places have American eel, or in tidal rivers, migratory eels like Sarasota eels, small snakes, right? Just smaller forage in general. I use those smaller 6 and 8 inch ribbon tails. But guys, when the forage gets big, or if you're specifically targeting really big bass, go with that 10 or 12 inch giant ribbon tail. Examples of forage for that would be lamprey eels. If you're watching this and you live in a place where there's lamprey eels, Tennessee River, etc., love it. Great imitator of a lamprey eel. Big tilapia, big shiners, big whatever, big forage, big ribbon tail. And again, power bait. So all these lures have that smell, and I really think that helps on this style of bait. Okay, so 6 all the way to 12 inch ribbon tail is what I select. I want to talk to you about color, and then we're going to get into the 4 ways to rig your favorite ribbon tail. Okay, guys, on color, I tend to keep it more simple when I'm fishing ribbon tails. I tend to keep the color selection more simple. So, you know, in a nutshell, I carry some colors that have more translucency to them. If you hold them up to the light, you can see through them a little bit. And I tend to carry some colors that are more solid, more solid based colors that pop in the water a little better, that have contrast in the water a little better. You know, without a doubt, I'm going to give you my top 5 colors, and then maybe I carry 1 or 2 extra. This color right here is a color that Berkley Powerbait came up with, and it's called Blue Fleck. Try to give you a look at it. Kind of looks bluish purple, purplish with some blue metal flake in it. Blue Fleck or plum is a great color everywhere you go. Stained, dirty, semi-stained, great color. Blue Fleck. The next one I love, and you heard me talk about, dirty water, muddy water. You heard me mention that a lot. This is an old school color for an old school bait. And this is red shad, guys. It's black on one side, red on the other. It's a great color when the water's extra dirty or it's dark. Red shad. Okay. Next one of my staples, and I'm going to just take it right out of the bag. This is another old school color. Guys, when the sun is out and it's bright, but you're fishing in stained, dirty water, this color is called motor oil. Motor oil. One of my favorite color ribbon tails. Stained, dirty water, but especially when it's sunny. And if you look at that, it looks sort of greenish, but it has a translucency to it. Okay, so motor oil is another one of my great colors. Go to my last one, and this is sort of a color that I've used a long time ago, and it always seems to produce some extra bites. And these are the firetail colors. So you can use all those colors I just talked about, and they basically have bright orange, pink, or chartreuse tails on the back section. And that's a great one when you want to get a little sort of more reaction bite, is they see that tail and it really pops because it has a brighter color to the tail. Remember, guys, you can also create fire tails just by using dye, right? No problem. So, last color is solid black. Guys, just like we talked about the red shad, extremely dirty water or nighttime fishing, nothing beats an all black ribbon tail. So colors, I'm keeping it real simple. Not going crazy with a million colors, keeping it to the basics. All right, let's get to my 4 ways that I rig these ribbon tails. And I got to start with the one that is probably the most versatile, but also the most effective in a broad array of situations. And that is, guys, Texas rigged. I've got a big 10-inch on this side. I got me an 8.5 on this side. And you can see just a regular bullet weight. I usually peg it if there's a lot of cover, okay? So I'm using the bobber stop on my ribbon tails if there's a lot of cover. But guys, if I'm in open water or sparse cover, like just a little piece of weed there and nothing else, or a little piece of brush, guys, I don't use the bobber stop. I let the weight flow, okay? So bobber stop, Texas rig when there's a lot of cover, free sliding weight when it's more open water. But in either case, that thing is versatile, guys. And I love to drag that big ribbon tail around where I believe the fish are living. You know, ledges, deep water, points, brush piles, an edge of grass, through the lily pads, up under docks, around stumps, everything, guys. But whichever one you're using, the key to that is that tail. So when I'm using a Texas rig on that ribbon tail, guys, I'm doing a lot of dragging with that bait, because the strength of a ribbon tail is the tail. So I constantly want to keep that thing moving, especially when the water's warm. So I'm doing a lot of dragging with it. The other thing is that it has excellent fall capabilities with that ribbon tail. So on the drop, that tail's going crazy. Boom. Once it hits the bottom, I'm dragging it. The tail's going crazy. And I use the same pause rule that I do with other techniques. So if I'm dragging that ribbon tail, if I'm out on a ledge fishing a brush pile, and I'm dragging, I'm waiting to feel it, all of a sudden, I feel that worm hit the brush pile. I'll pause it, and I'll let it rest. I'll wait a couple seconds, and I'll lift it over that pile. There's that ribbon tail falling again. When it hits, I'll pause it again. So integrate pauses, especially when you hit that cover. Number 1 way I fish it, guys, Texas rig. Number 2 method I fish this one, and this is a good one. I just made a little short one for you here. Is on the old ball and chain, guys. Ball and chain. You know, if you're watching this and you know Carolina rigging, but if you don't, here it goes. It's a free sliding weight. Usually 1/2 to 1 ounce, 3/4 is a great size. Little plastic bead, a barrel swivel, and then your leader length. That leader length can vary from short to long. Usually, to me, it depends on the cover. I always kind of want to keep that worm a little above the cover. So anything from 18, 20 inches all the way to 3 feet is your zone for that leader. And then your worm, okay? Then your ribbon tail worm. This is a great alternative to a lizard or a creature. A lot of guys fishing lizards, a lot of guys fishing creature baits on Carolina rigs. Guys, great alternative. And that tail, as you drag it, Carolina rig, right? Throw it out, hits the bottom, dragging. The whole time that tail is moving. I would say that when I'm around specific color, When I'm around specific cover, a tree, a weed, a dock, like I'm casting at cover, I tend to use a Texas rig a little more. But if I'm not sure, if it's more open water and I'm just trying to cover ground, I'm going down a ledge, I'm feeling around a long main lake point, I tend to go with the Carolina rig because it really does allow me to sort of move more with that ribbon tail. Last thing, same thing, guys. If you're dragging it and you feel it hit a piece of cover, a rock, rough patch, you feel it getting in the rock, stop it. Let the ribbon tail settle. Wait a couple seconds. Start your retrieve again. Okay. Number 2 method, Carolina rig. Okay. Number 3 method, and guys, this is a good one. This is a really good one. Is on a shaky head. That's right. On a shaky head. Guys, so many people assume that when you're fishing a shaky head, you have to fish a straight tail worm. No, 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 no. That's not true. Clear, clean, crystal clear water, shaky head on a straight tail on a shaky head is perfect. But dirty, stained, muddy water, but where you still need a little more finesse approach, a ribbon tail on a shaky head is awesome. So, little more finesse, same kind of places you would fish the Texas rig ribbon tail. I tend to use the smaller worms, the 6 and the 8-inch worm when I'm fishing on a shaky head. The other scenario is when you are fishing on a bottom type that's really soft or silty, the shaky head on the ribbon tail is great. So, a river that has been silted in, Florida lakes, places that have little tiny short sandgrass, places where you want to get it up off of that silt. The shaky head is nose down, tail up. So you still have that tail moving on the fall. As you're dragging it, that tail's still just slithering. But when I stop it, it pops up a little and sits like this off the bottom. It's kind of like, hey, I'm over here. Great, great system when there's a little silt to the bottom. All right, guys, last but not least, and this one I'm looking for a good bait here to show you. This one is a real cool little one that I discovered years ago fishing on Kentucky Berkley Lake, back when the ledge fishing used to be great. And I traditionally, when I'm fishing a jig, especially a football jig, I traditionally use a chunk or a crawl or a grub, a double-tail grub. But I found out that using a big ribbon tail on a big jig, especially a football jig, can be a killer. I basically either use the 10 or the 12-inch, and I'll just bite a little bit of it off. So the reason I'm doing that is I want that thicker, big profile, but I want just a little bit of that length off. So I usually, that's a 10-inch. I'll bite it down just a bit. And then, guys, I'm going to thread it on that jig. The main thing is I want that ribbon tail facing the opposite way of the bend of the hook. So when I thread it on, I want to make sure that that ribbon tail is facing the opposite way of the jig. When you look at it, guys, it looks giant. It looks massive. But there's something about that football head just army crawling. And when you hit the cover and you pause it, the skirt flares. And remember, when you're dragging that jig, that tail is massive in the back. And when I stop it, the tail sort of slithers up, slithers down. Just a very unique presentation on the back of a jig. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this shop video talking about the good old ribbon tail. If you're new to fishing, or if you're a new angler, or if you're an old guy that's never fished it, Go back and try this one. It worked in the 80s and it still works today. Guys, I hope you're enjoying these shop videos. If you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel. If you're already a subscriber, tell your friends about it. It's Mike Iaconelli Fishing on YouTube. We're here to hopefully help you catch more fish and catch a big one. That's the old school plastics about the ribbon tail. Bye, guys.